Okay, we're definitely streaming now. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. At least I know it's working now. Stream settings, everything. Yep, stream health. Good, good, good. Great, 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 great. Well, okay, that's fine, because I already did say that take on the air, so we don't need to fucking... I wasn't trying to create content out of that, but I did think it would be a good way to start the conversation, but...
I think it's a good conversation to have, actually, because I think most of the takes we've heard aren't really unique at all. It's been generally negative, but I don't necessarily see the AI thing as... I definitely do see it as a threat, but at the same time, to me, it's like the natural progression of all things technology.
I'm not excited about living in that version of the world.
Yeah.
At all. Like I do, every time people are like, well, we're going to do this and it's going to be like this, I'm like, I don't want to live in that world. To me, it's not just terrifying. It's like, it like makes me sick to my stomach to think about. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of that. Like,
I kind of feel like that about the current situation, too. I mean, granted, we enjoy a lot of luxuries and a lot of comforts now, but is it a bubble? Like, I think this is once the dominoes start falling, we're gonna pay for all this.
Well, especially if you have the wrong people in power, because like I think the debates I didn't actually watch the debates. I seen all the clips. And I tried. I think they proved that, like, or have proven that we don't have the right people in the right positions of power to handle the awesome totality of AI. I think that's proven. And anybody that argues that, I believe I can make a credible argument that you're just in denial or you're a fucking moron and you don't know what you're talking about.
I think there will always be a desire to use it as a tool to do bad things. So
I'm sure there are some people. I don't know
how you could ever control it then if you're doing that.
I'm sure there are some people behind the scenes that are like definitely the right people and they probably care and know. But it's definitely not the two presidents that are running for re-election. It's definitely not most Congress people that we know of. None of the loud ones. None of the ones, it's definitely not Marjorie Taylor Greene or AOC, whatever the fuck her name is, or Ilhan Omar.
Nope.
It's none of them. It's not Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell. It's none of these fucks.
Nope. I think
I don't think it's Cory Booker.
This is all being embraced by every single corporation right now. They're all looking for ways to utilize this. The government is.
But aren't they just making money? Like, isn't that all they're really doing?
For sure. And that's part of why this can never turn around. It's just going to progressively keep going this direction.
We would have needed to put, we would have already needed to put, restrictions on it.
Yeah.
But now that you're already making money, now that it's already part of the economy, it'll never go away.
Right. And what regulations are being followed by corporations now? Some have special permits that allow them to pollute so much, and get around certain regulations. Or and then you got let's say one president lifts a regulation. That's all it takes. You open the door once.
You said you tried to watch the debates?
Yeah, I originally heard that CNN really wanted to restrict the amount of independent streams of the debates because there's going to be a lot of people doing commentary and real live fact checking and stuff like that. So they really wanted to kind of shut that down.
So YouTubers is what I just heard.
YouTubers, exactly. YouTubers, the podcasters and stuff that I think do a better job at journalism than the journalism, from the mainstream media. So yeah, CNN.
Nobody. I mean, they get paid obviously through advertising on YouTube, but nobody's directly writing them a paycheck.
Correct,
it's through a third party. So it's pretty obvious why there's more credible independent journalism than there is. I don't even like calling it mainstream media anymore because I feel like Joe Rogan has gotten so big, he's almost mainstream media now. So now I like the term that they came up with, legacy media, which is your CNNs, your MSNBCs, your Fox. That's legacy media. And those guys, they're getting direct checks from Pfizer, direct checks from the FBI and the CIA, which is a proven fact. That's not conspiracy. Look it up.
Yeah, well, there's still a grifting element in the podcasting world, and
of course, Billy Carson, dude. I'm pretty sure he's a grifter.
You've seen a lot of even the people that,
even though I like a lot of his content,
even the lefties that kind of turned away from the left because of the, well, let's just be blunt about it, the insanity of some of their ideologies or policies.
Would you put me in that group? Did you ever consider me a lefty?
I guess I'd never considered you a lefty.
I did
think
lean heavy left, but go ahead.
But it maybe just a little bit more than I did, because there was a time when I kind of embraced a welfare system or something, I understood that it was a necessary evil and that taxes were necessary and stuff like that. Now I no longer think that same way.
So you don't think that I came off as a lefty the way they come off now?
No, not at all.
It's because I had reason. I had logic, and I slowed down and listened and didn't shout people down and fucking scream at the top of my lungs. Even when I was doing those things, it still wasn't to the level that's being done in the last 5 years, 10 years even, you could say.
But if you notice, there's nothing more. The right loves when they steal someone or they slowly get them on their side. And so they're more willing to donate to the super chats and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, that person knows who's buttering their bread. And then that positive reinforcement may sway them further and further and further to that side. So I think there's still going to be a progression, a shift, I guess. I don't necessarily think that everybody's coming to their sanity, or that things are going to be up from here, because it's just a cycle, That side's going to go nuts as soon as it has all the power. That's what happens. Because I really didn't start paying attention to politics until like the Bush years, the first Bush years. You know what I mean?
You mean Bush 2, Bush Jr.?
Well, yeah,
Bush Jr.
Well, even the first Bush a little bit, but. Because that was the first Iraq stuff,
Sure.
But
weren't you too young to really wrap your head around it?
I was in high school.
Really? You're that much older than me?
Yeah. Well,
Jesus Christ.
I don't know, getting there. How old are you?
40.
Oh, yeah, I'm almost 10 years older than you.
Oh, fuck, dude. Yeah. I didn't really realize that. I mean, you look good, dude. You look fucking great, man. It must have been all that healthy living and cutting out the sugar and moving out of the city.
No, I eat way too much sugar now.
Oh, really? You're back on the sugar?
Oh, yeah.
You're back on the devil's...
You would definitely be able to tell.
The devil's powder?
30 pounds lighter if I didn't have sugar.
Well, you look fine with the extra 30, dude.
I started with a deficit, so...
I've been starting... doing these push-ups. I've had to lay off big time because it didn't fuck up my neck, but I had a neck problem that got made worse by the push-ups, right? So I'm like, I gotta
getting tight.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, so I can barely turn my head to the left. It kills me. Like, that's why the podcast is brutal right now too, because just doing that.
Did you get any advice from Eric Keys?
No, we didn't get that far because, as well as anybody, we run out of time. We just can't cover everything. So we barely got through like diet and exercise. And then at the very end, I had like a half hour to ask him about reaping and his tour and like tried to kind of tie it together. But we ran out of time.
I've noticed, you get into a certain type of physical labor. And I do a lot more physical labor now than I used to. But just getting stronger in some areas of your body screws up the other parts of your body. You're not really getting a lot
if you're not doing it right, for sure.
You're not getting,
I'm
full body workout or whatever.
I'm less and less comfortable talking about this stuff the more and more I learn about it, though, because it just quickly Dunning-Krugers me, and I go, "Oh, I'm an idiot. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about." Like, I thought I knew what I was talking about because I was listening to my body, but it's like your body will trick you. Your body will deceive you with pain receptors and hunger cravings and all kinds of bullshit, right? So it's just like, I gotta fucking shut the fuck up. I'm not Joe Rogan. I can't be given any advice. I shouldn't even comment.
But even if you listen to like the experts and stuff,
I'll tell you about back problems. I know a lot about that. Back and neck problems. That's about it.
There'll be some people that say, you never work to full exhaustion. You never, or you just do a lot of little stuff. So there's all these different things, but then they have different ideas later that completely contradict itself. You see?
Yeah, and
so I don't know.
What I've learned is all the stuff is true, depending on who you are, what your lifestyle is, what your end game goals are, and how you are willing to get there. And I know I know how vague that sounded, and that was kind of on purpose. But it's like, if you're trying to bodybuild, you have to go to failure. I know that because Arnold, the best bodybuilder who's ever graced the planet, that's his whole thing. He's like, failing is good. That's the literal foundation of bodybuilding, right? But then, yeah, you listen to Joe Rogan. He's like, I never go to failure anymore because I'm trying to. I'm like, it all makes sense. Yeah. But you also, the two of you have two distinctly different motivations and two different goals. So that's I think the problem is with fitness, with politics, with diet, veganism, fucking keto, carnivore. Now it becomes a religion, dude. It becomes a religion, and people act as if there is only one way. And it's like, bro, this isn't the Mandalorian. Like, there's more than one way. You know, I get super frustrated with that shit, dude.
Well, you see, I'm a big UFC fan, and you see like the different approaches they take. Some guys never spar, and some guys like pretty much have full out fights in the gym leading up to a fight, and they've both sides have become champions. So what's the best thing? It just must be.
The best example is that Sean Strickland, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to spar.
He doesn't seem smart about any of the things he does, but yet he's up there with everybody.
To put it into context, they say you're never supposed to spar. Well, then he spars more than anybody, and he also gets hit less than anybody because they put that tracker thing on him Rogan always talks about. So that's just a perfect example of what you're talking about. Like, that was a religion thing. No, you don't spar. You can't spar because it's too big of a risk. You'll get hurt, blah, 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 blah.
It goes back and forth, yeah.
Exactly, dude. And it just depends on who you are, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to long term, what you're trying to do, and what you're willing to do to get there.
And who's already what's the path look like to get to where you need to go? You know, because you got to figure out a way to get past all these Dagestani guys. You know, and that's going to take a certain.
That shit's so intense to me, dude. The strategy of like the future of fighting. So it's like, yeah, you'd think once you go back to like the beginning, right? You'd think once everybody knew Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was the best individual style that everybody would have just done that, but they didn't. They were like, well, you're never going to be that good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so you're going to avoid Jiu-Jitsu in the ring,
or you just learn enough. Learn enough not to try to get caught.
Sure. Yeah. Right. You're not going to try to perfect it. That's what I should have said. So what you're going to do is you're going to just learn how to beat the shit out of this dude on your feet. And when he tries to go, we're not going to play that game. We're going to do a different game. We're going to make him play our game. It's like kind of like football, but also at the same time you're playing hockey and you're playing baseball and you're playing basketball and you're playing cricket and you're playing lacrosse and you're playing like all these different I know it's all one sport. I get that. I'm not trying to be deep.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, as an outsider who doesn't know that much about all of these different styles, I can handle myself perfectly fine in a fight. I've done a little jiu-jitsu. I've done a little karate. I've taken boxing. Like, I know how to fight. I'm very confident, even against a larger human. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm able to sit here and like go, well, this guy's version of jiu-jitsu is going to be that guy's version of wrestling, and this guy's version of the ground and pound versus that guy's fucking blah blah. I don't even know enough of the fucking terms, dude. It's like,
I mean, it's interesting because it's the closest thing we have like to real fighting, manifested in some kind of sport, right? But
oh, for sure, yeah.
The fact that they get to prepare and they get to watch tapes on each other and they can literally come up with strategy just for that fight kind of makes it weird too, because it's like, okay, what?
Sure, so that guy won't even do that two fights in a row.
Yeah, that's
exactly what I'm talking about.
This question still is what strategy is the best overall?
Yeah,
and we'll probably not know that because it's constantly molding their fight camp towards one particular opponent,
right,
and then changing it up the next opponent.
Let's see if this works. I think we put it like that. Yeah, look at that.
Is it
nice? It is working again. Cool.
Check. It does. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Sweet.
Huh? That way I can do hard, illicit, illegal narcotics.
Oh yeah.
While you're talking.
Oh, so there's a motive here.
There's always a motive, Jamal. Have you met me?
Yeah,
I'm a good chess player.
We were just looking, and I think it's been 2 years at least since I've been here, and I didn't realize it was that long. But
it is kind of wild to think that I started this podcast technically 6 years ago, but as far as the YouTube's concerned, it was 4 years ago. And then I took, 2 years off, dude. Fucking brutal, dude. But I'm excited to have you back, man, because there's been so much shit that's happened.
Almost so much that
Yeah, again, it's like, where do we start?
I forget how much has happened.
It's like,
what we've talked
so
about.
I think the best way to do this is to sort of go in reverse to tie it all together into one actual tangible conversation, so it doesn't seem like we're switching topics. So the most recent thing is the debate and the current election we're dealing with, which it's like, dude, I'm just going to tell everybody right now, because I'm not going to play peekaboo on my politics. I'm voting for Tulsi Gabbard, and people are like, she's not running, you fucking idiot. Yeah, I know. So here's what I'm actually saying. Whoever is smart enough to pick her as VP, that's who I'm voting for, including Joe Biden, because I'm hoping they're going to die and she becomes president. It's that fucking simple. It's the only politician I want to vote for.
The left has already ousted her, though, too.
I don't give a fuck about RFK, Donald J. Trump, Joe fucking Biden. Fuck them all right in their stupid fucking asses. I'm voting for whoever's smart enough to pick Tulsi Gabbard, because if you want to win this election, you need... I'm gonna say this as if I'm the only one that matters. You need my vote. And what I mean by that literally is you need the swing vote. You need the guy who's willing to vote for you outside of party. Because you actually are the final nail in the coffin for me that convinced me to not play the lesser of two evils game that they love to make us play. Vote for Hillary just because Donald Trump's that bad.
Right.
Vote for Donald Trump just because Joe Biden's that bad. I hate that. No, how about I vote for you based on your merits?
Stand on a platform.
Which is why I voted for Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
Hold your tongue all you want. Embarrass yourself with Aleppo. I looked at your resume, and Gary Johnson, hands down, would have been the best president for the country in 2016, and it wouldn't have been close. All he would have needed was a 15-minute briefing on Aleppo, and then he would have been cool.
Well, and it's not that he maybe didn't even know what Aleppo was. He just was caught off in a conversation, because sometimes somebody will bring up something and I completely know what they're talking about, but at the time I don't. My brain went a different direction. And that's what kind of felt like with him too, you know. But
so for context, for the listeners that are going, what the fuck are they talking about? So 2016, Syria, Gary Johnson's running for office, and they go, so what are your thoughts on Aleppo? And he goes, what's Aleppo?
It sounds like a drug, yeah. Sounds like...
Oh, is that what he said? I forgot what the follow-up line was.
I think that's what he thought. There was like a pharmaceutical drug or something, because that's what it sounds like. You know, you can see a commercial for Aleppo.
And there was a skirmish. I don't even want to call it a war. It's the capital of Syria, right? Or is it Somalia or fucking? Where is it?
No, it's Syria.
Where is Aleppo? It's Syria, right?
I think so, yeah.
If I would have been in that situation, I would have done the same thing. I would have went, what's Aleppo? And you would have had to go, it's the capital of Syria where we have and I would have went, oh, duh. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just completely slipped my mind. Sorry, I've been campaigning a lot.
That's what it seemed like was his deal.
And here's the deal. No one respected his actual take, which is the fucking truth. When you're the governor, you have zero briefings, debriefings, whatever you want to call it, knowledge or reason to know about anything happening internationally that doesn't affect your borders. So you ask him anything that's going on all the way down to South America, and he's going to know it because he was in a border state, New Mexico, right? You ask, what's her name from Alaska, that chick that ran for vice president with Sarah Palin. You ask her about Russia, she's going to know everything because she had to. That's the point. But then you ask her about the Middle East, she wouldn't know either. So it was an unfair question, first of all. But he was very good at foreign policy because of his role as governor, which, in case anybody's super young trying to figure out why this matters, is because governor is the president of the state. So it's the closest. If you want somebody with the closest level of job qualifications for president, it's a governor. The state government works in a mirrored, smaller version of the federal government in every possible way. So it's the best qualification is to be governor, right? That's why some of our best presidents have been governors.
Well, I think it's also an unrealistic expectation to have everybody know everything that's going on in every single country. You know. There's so many,
and that's
countries.
What I mean. It's unfair. It's an unfair question, dude.
Exactly. And if you're already kind of got this libertarian mindset where you're like, we really shouldn't be involved anyway. You know, of course you're not going to know that much about it.
Why would you?
Yeah. No, I'm still good. But yeah, the lesser of two evils, I think, is the wrong way to vote, and I think that I'm a true believer that the lesser of two evils is the most effective evil. So they can get it by with a lot more stuff.
When I listen to Tulsi Gabbard talk, I hear a president. I hear a real dignitary. I feel when I hear her talk, I feel like I'm listening to somebody who legitimately should be running important things. And yes, some of that is shallow, like the literal tone of her voice. Mm-hmm. Like for a chick, she's got kind of a deeper voice. Yes, she's good looking. She's good looking, so that polished. Also makes it easy to listen to her. I'm admitting that some of this isn't just her policies. A lot of it is her composure. Obama did the exact same thing. Like, she's a female Obama as far as I'm concerned when it just comes to her ability to talk. Like, you're willing to listen. It's not like Trump or Hillary where the literal sound of their voice will annoy a lot of people. You're just not going to get that with those two. So there's that. But then it's just the way she rationalizes and talks through a topic, you know? Even when she's going after somebody, she's not like, you dumb fucking idiots. She's just like, this is gravely concerning, and this is disheartening to Americans.
And everybody tried to say she was a Russian asset. Oh my God. If there's anybody that's not been a Russian asset, it would be her.
So that was part of my falling out with Dalton, is that kind of shit, because I started to realize, I was like, oh, you're kind of an idiot. And you were literally in charge of national security because you worked for the National Security Agency. You worked for the NSA. And I was like, that's deeply concerning to me, that you were the one making the call as to whether this was worth putting up the chain. And all he ever did is regurgitated Democrat talking points.
Yep.
So he never even gave me like an original thought of his. It was all shit I heard on CNN, which just destroyed all of his credibility. Because, like, in simple logic, there's no way one side is completely good and one side is completely corrupt. It's just not how the world works, let alone America, let alone politics. I mean,
when she was a Democrat and she was running for president before she destroyed Kamala Harris, the lefties hated her because they fell for that whole she grew up religious, so that she believed in traditional marriage.
Sure.
If that's the only thing that makes you sway your vote, is somebody who is traditional or believes in traditional things. I'm sorry, but you probably shouldn't be involved in politics. It's pretty crazy, because the shit that other politicians believe is far more crazy than that. And even the thing is, they still vote for people that push traditional families and marriages this whole time. I mean, Biden was not pro, gay marriage or any of that stuff. None of these people were, until it was convenient to.
Even Obama.
Even Obama. Yeah.
That was my biggest moment of realizing it's all total bullshit. Was Obama's term, because I voted for Obama.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, we could go down the list of all the stuff that he said he was going to do that didn't happen, from closing Guantanamo Bay on ethics, not laws, ethics. His version of drain the swamp, he didn't use those words, but he talked about
warrantless spying.
Bro, when he was campaigning and he was talking about he was debating Hillary, and he goes, it's so funny, Hillary, because when I'm on the stage with you, I don't know who I'm really debating. I don't even know if I'm debating Hillary or if I'm secretly debating Bill 2.0.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking funny, because then he turns around in his second term and they're like, would you run for a third term if you could?
Only
and he goes, if I could have some sort of a version of like a puppet, or a guy up there with an earpiece, and I could say the words and get him to, then I'd do it. I'd do it for sure. So it's so funny, the hypocrisy that happened with that, and then you can get into, he was going to end the war in Iraq and end the war in Afghanistan. He was going to abolish the Patriot Act. Not only did he not do any of these things, he literally went harder in the paint on every single one of those things. So not only are these guys full of shit, but whoever's really in control gets in their ear once they're in office and goes, so either they're completely full of shit and they don't have any power, or it's all pandering and virtue signaling, and once they get in there and they actually learn the true levels of the game, they go, oh, that's why we've been doing it this way. This is why we can't just pull out. This is why we need Guantanamo Bay. So this is why I don't condemn Obama, right? But he is the one where I lost faith in the system.
He's the final nail in my coffin.
So this is why. So if people think I'm bashing Obama, I kind of am. But here's the other thing is, like, also, dude, it's why I didn't fall for any of Trump's bullshit. It's why I didn't fall for anything he ever fucking said. And when everyone's like, he's a liar, I was like, they're all fucking liars.
Every single one of them.
And that's when all of a sudden I realized, I go, oh, I'm almost 40 now. I'm the 40-year-old that I used to listen to when I was 16. And I go, these fucking old guys, they think everybody's evil. Yeah, they are all evil. That's the point. When you're the most powerful in the world, you're going to end up becoming some version of evil to somebody. And there's no perfect solution for it, dude. So
I think, I used to think that maybe there's a possibility that once Obama got elected, he saw how things really were, and then that changed somehow. But I think if you go back and look at like his early voting record, where he would purposely be absent during certain types of votes, it made me think he was playing politics from the get-go. And that, to me, so I kind of think he was bullshitting the whole time. And I fell for it the first time. But unlike most people, like I said, I defended him probably for a good year and a half. And it eventually came to a point where it's like, I can't defend this guy. He's literally doing all the shit I hated from before, except worse. It's on steroids now. But yeah, Gabby, I do like her. I don't know if anybody can pull
Gabby?
us. If anybody can,
her?
If anybody can pull us together,
Tulsi
it might.
Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard, yeah. I don't know if anybody could pull us together, but maybe her. She's the more sensible one. But I don't think they're going to let that happen.
Well, and it's so interesting to me that the left hates her because she embodies what the left loves. So she's a woman of color. She's Samoan. She's a woman, first of all. They love that, right? So she's a woman. She's a person of color, okay? She's Samoan. She's not a Christian. She practices Hinduism.
Is that what it is?
It's Hinduism. It is. I looked it up just the other day. That's the only reason I'm so confident in this right now, because I just got done having this conversation and had to look it up because I thought I had gotten duped, right? So she, like, when she got married, she had a Hindu marriage because I think it's her mom adopted Hinduism when she was a child. She's a service woman. Yep. Service member.
Yep.
So she served.
She checks every box for.
And wasn't she like a doctor or a nurse or a surgeon, like a field?
Yeah, I think maybe.
She wasn't like shooting people either. So she served the country in a pacifist role, if I remember right. Like, she literally checks all the left boxes, and she only checks one box for me, really. Like, when it comes to shit. She's service member, right? So I'm like, okay, she's got balls. Number 2, she's pro 2A and pro free speech. That's all I need right now.
She went to interview Assad.
That's all I need right now.
In Syria, too.
That's why they call her a Russian toady.
That's why they hate her, because interfered with the war machine, essentially. But to me, that's what I thought the Democrats always were supposed to be about. The anti-war team, but that isn't the case.
Well,
it depends on who's...
From Game of Thrones, Tyrion had a great line in that. He goes, we don't try to make friends with our friends. We try to make friends with our enemies. That's how you end wars. You know what I mean? You already agree with your friends. You're trying to end a war, you meet with your enemies. You try to make friends with your enemies to end the fucking war. That's what you're really doing. Really, we had one person willing to do that in that skirmish, and then she gets accused of being called a Russian toady?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, that's super offensive.
It's super offensive, yeah. And you have all these people. I mean, she was on The View, and she shut them up pretty good, I thought. But
I gotta fucking text my wife. I need my fucking butane. This thing is somehow out of fucking fuel.
But
already.
I don't, again, though, I don't know if she is necessarily the thing we need right now, to be honest with you. Like, I couldn't say one way or the other. Like, I don't know if she can do it.
I think she could.
Because
Because women don't fuck with women either. Like, once you put a woman in a box, bitches be lashing out too. So I'm not afraid of her going toe to toe with Xi Jinping or fucking Putin in a room behind closed doors. Like, she might get a little soft from time to time, but I trust her judgment to say, hey, if we have to, because here's the thing. Ironically, I'm actually super with Joe Biden and most of the Democrats on the Ukraine thing, and I know this is going to blow a lot of people's minds. So like, no, if I'm the president, here's what I'm saying. No, we're taking all of Ukraine back. Like, we're getting them out of Crimea. We're not sacrificing any. We cannot give this guy a fucking inch. It's the old epitome. If I give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. Because I know in my heart, after talking with some buddies who ended up being right about this whole thing from the beginning, in regards to they were kind of predicting it and nobody was really listening, and a couple of them are buddies. That because I've done a lot of research on the Ukraine-Russia thing. It took a long time. It took months and months and months and months. But there's no way he stops at the edge of Ukraine. There's no way he stops in the middle of Ukraine. He needs the entirety of Ukraine, and the reason for it is, if he's being honest, and it's all about NATO and defending the borders of Russia, in order to get troops in and out of Russia, it really comes down to this one valley in between these two mountain ranges on the west side of Ukraine. Okay, it's kind of a choke point. And so you need to control that choke point in order to be able to truly prevent a ground invasion into Russia. There's no fucking strategical military way he's stopping, if he's being even remotely honest about his motivations. I also don't believe he'll stop at Ukraine, the country. I think he's going after Estonia, all of Latvia, all of those. I truly believe, and I've said this on the podcast, I'll say it again, because I said it the moment the war popped off. I said, what I really think is happening is he knows he's dying. He's got some sort of weird terminal diagnosis. They're going to try to keep him alive as long as possible. But what he knows is his time is coming to an end, and he wants his face up there with Lenin and with Stalin. He wants it to be a triarchy. That's what he's like envisioning in his mind. And he knows the only way he can truly do that is to restore basically a new version of the Soviet Union. Your thoughts?
Very well. I know when in that interview, he was kind of leading to that whole rebuilding Russia. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's talking about dropping nukes to do it. So,
but at the same time, I still don't support the whole Ukraine thing, because I kind of do feel like we created that situation too. I think, go back to Obama, the first time when Ukraine had their revolt or whatever, their revolution or coup or whatever you want to call it, that was America, CIA bullshit.
Had to be, right?
Yeah, totally. Was 100%.
Now, don't get me wrong. They did have a puppet governor or president who, it's basically Belarus. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really Ukraine. It was really Russia, and it's all a facade. So it did seem like, yes, our CIA probably had the captain's chair in that coup, but it also seemed super authentic. Like, the people really wanted them out.
I don't know. I don't really know about that.
Because they've been thriving without them.
Because what percentage of that country is still, Russian speaking, Russian identifying? It's still a good
I know a lot of Ukrainians.
Yep.
Because a lot of them 20 years ago became refugees in Northeast Minneapolis, and they fucking hate Russia.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, all of them, yeah. Basically all of them. Like, the only
I would
ones
never go that far.
The only ones that don't. Well, this is their words, not mine. The only ones that don't hate Russia are the ones that are Russian. And there's no gray area in that. They're like, no, we're Russian, and we happen to be in Ukraine, and we fucking hate Ukrainians. We hate Jews. Like, it's a weird breed of Russians. That's where a lot of that fucking propaganda comes from. So whether it's true or not, it's still propaganda. Propaganda doesn't mean it's fake. I know you know that, but just for the listeners.
Yeah.
There's
some partial truth to some of that.
Well, all propaganda is usually based in truth. That's why it's effective. It's because it's based in truth.
Yeah, because the Azov supposedly had a lot of neo-Nazi type people in it, but
which they did.
It was a certain percentage.
Well, they also didn't have the numbers that anybody ever pretended they did.
Right. So you take the small percentage and then magnify it, and then you can kind of paint it however.
It's like how people talk about the KKK and white supremacy nowadays. It's like, just do a simple Google search, you guys. There's not very many KKK members in the country, and none of them have any power. None of them ever win anything. Like, it's this whole idea white supremacy is the number one threat to America. It's like, you guys are idiots. Exactly, seriously, that's a fear-mongering, pandering, virtue signaling move. It's an amateur move. It's a simple Google search to be like, these guys are a joke. There's like, I think it was like 1,500 across the country.
Yeah, it was, or less. Yeah,
I think last time I looked it up, because I did it when I was doing those stupid morning shows that went nowhere, and that's one of those topics I tackled in that.
Even if it's 3,000, 300 some million people in this country. I mean,
exactly. It's just, and it's not like it would be one thing if there was 3,000 all in Charlton. Charlton? Charleston?
There's probably more serial
Charlotte?
killers.
Was I trying to say Charleston and Charlotte at the same time? I said Charlton, like a charlatan. If they're all in Charleston, South Carolina, you know what I mean? Then you got 3,000 people in. Yeah, that could actually become a real problem. Yeah. Like, they could run for office and vote each other in the right area. Like, that could be, but it's not. It's like, I think the biggest chapter in the country has like 18 guys in it. Something like that. It's like the FBI is well informed on all of the KKK's movement. Yes, it's not a threat.
And they have been for decades, because they'll, in their own words, they would say stuff like, whenever we'd have a meeting, a KKK meeting, 2/3 of them would be informants. Yeah. So it's.
Yeah, they know.
They know.
They know everything, especially with smartphones and all that shit now too, and fucking surveillance drones.
Even the Oklahoma City bombing stuff, they were watching. They were watching that freaking neo-Nazi base or whatever. They had informants inside there. They've always been involved on some level.
I will say this though, to get back to the Ukraine thing, like, I'm super aligned with the general strategy of like, we're not relenting. Like, we're going to take all of Ukraine back, essentially, no matter what it takes, right? I like the idea. Because here's the deal. We're going to World War III. I also need to put that on the table. I don't think we're going to avoid this. The only question is whether we're going to avoid nukes. That's the only real question to me. And I don't think it actually has anything to do with Ukraine. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with Hamas. I think it's all going to be about Taiwan. I think this whole thing is just a fucking toilet bowl event that fucking all goes and climaxes in Taiwan. And we are being tested, and the bear is being poked. And if we do not do something, and we'll get into this later, what I think would happen and what eventually will happen, because I don't think we're going to truly be able to win World War III. I think we'll be able to bomb these fuckers back into the Stone Age if we're strategic and smart about the way we do it, meaning we don't hit any civilian population areas. We go for like railroads. We go for like industrial complexes, things like that, just to make it literally impossible for them to fight an effective war in the long run. We can't launch nukes, but here's what I'm getting at. Here's what I'm saying. I also agree with the right now, and I did not agree with the right ever in regards to Ukraine, but I'm now 100% aligned with them in regards to, it seems like Vladimir Zelensky is not only corrupt, he definitely wasn't a while back, because he was making moves that were, you could do some quick paper trails and be like, oh yeah, these were the corrupt guys, and he's doing the right thing by getting rid of them.
I honestly think it's out of his hands. This whole thing is out of his hands.
I think now he's on cocaine. I'm pretty sure he's on coke, which kind of makes sense. You've been fucking
always on coke.
Well, I think he's actually on coke now, though. I think he's a full-blown coke head, and which makes sense. He's probably sleeping 2 hours a night, and this war's been going on for 2 fucking years. But I think the corruption is back in Ukraine. So I'm really, like, we seem to be blowing a lot of money. And in case anybody doesn't understand what we mean by that, it's we've given them, I believe, triple our own military budget. I think we've given them
few hundred billion, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's billions.
Or 100. Yeah, did I say billions? What did I say?
I thought you said millions.
Oh, it's billions.
So I believe the entire budget for our Navy is $53 billion. That might be the entire military, but I think that's just the Navy. And we've given them, I believe, $150 billion.
See, and I don't know. Some of that isn't I don't know how that's all broken down because some of it is kickbacks to our own arms manufacturers, and then some of it has been, from what I understand, going in cash and different ways there and being basically disappeared. But I honestly...
Okay, it's $820 billion total.
Holy shit. More than I thought.
That's for America.
Oh, for America. So it hasn't been quite that much yet, I don't think. 107?
$175 billion in U.S. spending. 107 of it goes to the government of Ukraine.
Yeah. The reason why...
No. We can't be spending $802 billion a year on our military. That's almost $1 trillion a year. There's no way that's our budget. Because it says our total spending is $175 billion, and 107 of it has gone to aid. So I think I'm right. We don't have the producer here tonight, but you'll just have to either fact check me or kind of take my word for it. But I'm pretty sure I heard this in
I think
Congress.
That's Ukraine spending, and then some of it's going towards the government. We're even paying their pensions.
Well, here's what it says, though. It's from the total of $175 billion in U.S. spending. Oh, so maybe we've spent $175 billion over there.
Yeah.
And 107 of it has gone directly to the government.
Yeah. And the rest is going to our some of our weapon manufacturers.
It's a lot of money.
Because it's always been about contracts and stuff like that. And money laundering.
That's the thing is we also haven't given them a lot of actual money. We really haven't. What we've actually been doing... And I can say this because I know this to be true. I can't tell you why on YouTube for legal reasons, but I can tell you this from a place of no, dude, I know this is true. A lot of what we've given them is our old stockpile of ammo and weapons. And what our military is now doing is replacing those stockpiles with new generation stuff. So there's a lot of manufacturing companies right here in America, okay, that are currently manufacturing stuff for those companies. And that's a fact check.
Well, I think we're I've heard that we also paying pensions of people in government there too, so...
Yeah, so I mean, and that's where I'm like, nah, we shouldn't be doing any of that because we got our own people. It's the same thing with so this is where we can bridge into, and we're gonna have to keep kind of going back and forth because it's all tied together.
Yep.
This is where I have a big problem with our federal government and states like California. Now, thank God I don't live there. But you already know this is going to happen in a place like Minnesota because we love to pander and virtue signal as well. Mm-hmm. So I just found out what they're doing in California now is the state of California is giving medical insurance and paying for transgender surgery for all illegal immigrants. Here's the point. Our own veterans in California don't get free medical insurance. This deeply offends me to my core, and I'm not a veteran. But it just shows that it's literally not about what's best for Americans in our country. It's about for pandering and trying to secure more votes so you can stay in power. And I have ethical problems with that, bro.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that this is my problem with government in general? Is it will always do this. It may take decades, but it'll always revert right back to the same thing where it will look at its own self-interest versus the people's interest. I just don't think it's within mankind's to be benevolent and kind and whatever. On a small level we can do that. I just don't think we can do it on a big level. But yeah, it's always been about votes. I don't care about illegal immigrants. We're not replacing our own population either. So that's the quick fix too. Is you encourage people to come here and then you replace in the population. Because
that's what I think the actual conspiracy is we're trying to fight population collapse behind closed doors.
And every country's got to kind of worry about this. Or most countries anyway. So.
And I think this is actually how we'll win in the long run is exactly that. Is every country, specifically Russia, Japan, and China, are dealing with a dramatic level of population collapse, and it's going to collapse their economy, especially while they're trying to fight wars.
Mm-hmm.
So the secret sauce is because you can't legally allow enough people through in immigration. It's just not feasible. So you just kind of like, whoops, we accidentally left the back door open. Now we have all these illegal immigrants. Oh, we better make them citizens and get them jobs.
What did you think about this sensible Biden border bill thing that they were kind of just like, oh, well, Trump didn't want this resolved because he wants to run on it, which is partially true. But at the same time, if you look at those numbers that they were talking about letting in.
So are you talking about, I don't actually think I know anything about this, but I want to clarify because maybe I do. So let me make sure I understand what I believe the argument is here, is that the Biden administration put forth a bill that allegedly was going to fix immigration, and allegedly Trump told all Republicans to vote against it to prevent them from having something to run on so he could run on it as well.
Correct, yeah.
I don't know anything about the specifics of it, but I don't believe that the Republicans are that loyal to Trump.
No, I think the party itself could still think about doing that on their own. They still want to run on that. Every Republican wants to run on that right now, but that's still not what I think it is.
And in fact, if you want to play 3D chess, which is what we're really doing here, it would actually make more sense to allow it to go through, because then you could campaign as Trump and the Republicans. You could campaign on the fact that all they did, the only thing they did, is what we wanted to do from the beginning. So they literally put in writing and passed a bill admitting they were fucking wrong. They built the fucking wall the way we wanted to build it.
Yeah, you know how that doesn't work, though.
I mean, it would have worked. It absolutely would have worked.
Esoteric to the average person's not going to pick up on any of that stuff. I think you can't really.
I think they would, because that's who the swing voter is, and you got to get them emotionally now.
Yeah, I would say the swing voter.
Hypocrites.
I don't know, really, because I don't know. I don't really. I can't ever say that.
Well,
I know
actually,
for
no.
a fact.
I don't think swing voters are emotional, but they think swing voters are emotional.
But here's the thing, though.
That's the point.
If you looked at the actual bill, though. It's okay. So we have, I forget what the numbers is, but there was, let's say, all these millions of people coming into the country. The bill, the bill would say, well, we're still going to let that almost 90% of that number still through. That's what the bill said. But they're going to do it through this way and do this way, and so and we're going to put a hard cap after so many thousands per day, and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, so basically you're legalizing what you're doing now with a bill that's supposed to fix the border.
Yeah, so you're legalizing crime, essentially.
You're legalizing exactly the crisis we have.
So how did you... I'm pretty sure I know how you're going to weigh in on this, but I want to get your thoughts on it. So in this exact issue, so where were you when it was the Fed versus the state of Texas and how they wanted to enforce that border? Like, where do you think the legal authority should lie? Should each state have their own right to defend that part of the border, of the U.S. border, right? Or should the federal government be able to dictate that? Where does that... Because I can see the argument both ways. I know where I lie on the argument, but I want to hear your thoughts on it, and I got to piss while you do this.
I always resort back to the smallest form of government, the better. So I think the states should be ultimately responsible, especially if the federal government's going to fail to do it anyway. If the federal government's telling you that they need to do it, but then they're just letting this happen, and no matter how much you beg them or ask them to fix it, they don't do anything, well, then you're going to do it yourself. It's just like if the cops stop coming to your house because, they get sick of coming over or whatever because people keep trying to break into your house or whatever, what are you going to do? You're gonna keep calling the cops, or are you going to take it into your own hands? That's how I look at it. I totally think Texas is completely in the right. I mean, I can see why everybody's moving to Texas right now. I would if I could. Might be a little too hot, but yeah, I think the state can always be more efficient. I think the smaller the government, the better. I think the state will always be more efficient at 99% of the time at least. There's gonna be a lot more. Like let's just say your own town was responsible for deciding who got welfare checks. I think the state knows that your local town's going to know who's spending that check at the bar. Your state, your cities, your town's going to know who's doing what with what money and who needs the actual help and whatever. I think they're going to be more effective overall.
Well, and it seems like the state would know their territory better.
Correct.
It seems like the state would understand their local cultures. It seems like they would understand the dip. Because think about it, right? The border crossing is at the state line. So the guys and the people there are probably going to be a little better at sniffing out an illegal immigrant versus a legal immigrant, because there's legal immigrants, just like how people live in Wisconsin and Hudson and they go work in St. Paul every day. There are people that live in Mexico and they go right across the border and they work in America. That's probably the best arrangement of all time. But if you're a newbie FBI agent or a newbie federal border patrol guy, right? Yeah, I understand they probably also try to hire from the area, but when the rules are coming top down like that, and you're so far disconnected from the literal terrain, like literally, you don't even understand what boots these guys are wearing and why.
Yeah.
Like, you think this is fucking Florida, and it's like, no, this is Texas. Like, these guys it's not just about snakes. It's about fucking rocks. It's about this. It's about that. These guys are twisting their ankle. They're fucking chasing down 30 people. It's hot. It's desert. It's not swamp. It's not beaches. And again, I understand that like our real military is done at a federal level and they understand all these differences, but the amount of money it costs in order to do that, I just don't believe it's the best thing to keep handing things up to a higher and higher level of power that's less and less connected to the people, which is why no matter how big the military industrial complex has gotten, we've always kept the National Guard, the Army Reserve, the Air Force Reserve. All the reserve forces are part of the National Guard, and that branch of the military answers directly to its state's governor, not the president, not the general of the military. Like, it's the governor of that state. And there is conditions where if the president tries to nationalize the National Guard or federalize the National Guard, there is many laws on the books that allows that governor to deny that to happen. And those reserve forces will not be given over to the federal government, which is why I still don't think people really understand we are literally 50 different countries operating as one. We're not one big country, and I don't want to be, and I don't think it's good that we try to be that. And that's what I think the real disconnect is between the Democrats and the Republicans and the liberals and the conservatives. When the conservatives and the Republicans are in power, there is oftentimes they want, nowadays, for the federal government to become more powerful. And the Bush administration proved that. In fact, the Trump administration in many ways proved that as well. But they also turned around and gave some shit back to the states. So there's no perfect...
all of them run on small... Republicans like to run on smaller government.
Whether they do it or not is a different story.
A different story, yeah, exactly. So I think the end result is always...
You following me, though, on that?
So what do you think about that? Do you think the Texas should be able to control their own borders?
Yeah, officially, yeah. And it's for the reason I put out there is like, again, Sarah Palin is going to know more about Russia than Gary Johnson down in New Mexico. And Gary Johnson's going to know more about Mexico than, say, the fucking... what the fuck is going on with that? Gary Johnson's going to know more about Mexico than he is about Canada. And Tim Walz is going to know more about Canada than he is about Mexico, right? Even though our governor, Jesse Ventura, did a fucking trade deal, an embargo deal. Or no, an embargo is a bad thing. He did a trade deal with Mexico. So believe it or not, all Corona,
part-time.
And that's why he did it, because he's a celebrity and he had connections with both governments. But all Corona still to this day is made with Minnesota corn. Like, all Corona is made with Minnesota grown corn. Not an embargo. There's a different word for it. He did a trade deal with the country of Mexico that had a direct contract, and that's where Corona buys their corn from, because Corona is a corn-based beer, whether it's rice or barley or wheat or whatever. So
it's kind of like the opposite of an embargo in a way.
Right, and there's a word for it, and I think it almost sounds like embargo, which is why that word keeps popping up in my head. But it is the exact opposite of an embargo. It's an actual trade deal. But my point is like, he still probably, as governor, knew more about what we do and do not need to do to secure the borders against Canada, because a lot of illegal immigration comes through Canada. A lot of the terrorism in the early 2000s, 9/11, those guys came in through Canada. They didn't come in through Mexico. Partially because where their target was fucking New York. It would have been inefficient to come through Canada or through Mexico. It was way smarter to come through Canada. But
it's really efficient now, though, when they'll bus you into New York from the border.
So that's what scares the shit out of me, right? So we have some far left-wing ideological leaders here in our state, and I believe, since we're already a sanctuary city, I believe it's only a matter of time where our idiot leaders decide, yes, we're going to give a free pass to all those illegal immigrants that need a place to be, send them up here to Minneapolis, and they're going to give them the health insurance just like California. They're going to fucking pay for their fucking trans surgery. And it's like, dude, if you're a trans person traveling across the continent, you're not a political refugee.
I would actually say
you're just trying to get free shit.
I would say you're the opposite. You have a country that's giving you everything you want. You're not oppressed one bit.
No, I'm saying, but that's the whole. They're seeking asylum. These guys are asylum seekers. But the only way you can seek asylum, it's called political asylum, because just like Tony Montana said, I am a political refugee from Cuba. And that was true. They were, because they were literally escaping a communist government. That's not what's happening with any of these motherfuckers. And what about all these Chinese?
And it's not just Mexicans. It's everywhere.
What about? That's what I was. Yeah, that's what. So
there's Chinese people coming in,
and that's literally what I said. So what's going on with these fucking military-aged, crew-cut, having ass, super fit Chinese dudes coming through with cell phones? They already have cell phones and backpacks, like fully stocked backpacks. Like, what's up with these guys, dude? You're going to tell me they're political refugees from Mexico?
No,
really?
No, but I do believe that there is.
Well, come on, Mr. Democrat, tell me.
And I don't think this is a secret.
Where these Chinese are coming from in South America as political refugees. Tell me, Mr. Democrat. Make the case for this.
Well, I think. Well,
no, seriously, I want you to debate class it, steelman it. Where are these Chinese immigrants coming from? Through the southern border.
They just want better opportunities. That's all.
How are they so fit? How are they? Why do they have like really good military haircuts, and why do they all have like good teeth, like they're clean and been? If they're asylum seekers from an oppressive government, what South American government? And why do they look like they're from the military? Come on, Mr. Democrat.
I couldn't even answer that. Sorry, I can't even pretend.
You can't even try.
Retarded. Sorry.
I would say